The room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Machines beeped slowly, too slowly. Beep, beep, beep. 19-year-old Lara stood beside the hospital bed, clutching her mother's hand with both of hers. Her fingers were cold, too cold. Her mother's breathing was shallow, broken, like every breath might be the last. "Don't cry," her mother whispered weakly, forcing a smile. "Come closer." Lara bent down, tears dropping onto the white bedsheet. "Yes, Mummy, I'm here." Her mother tightened her grip, suddenly strong, desperate. "My daughter, don't give up your dream of becoming a nurse," she said, struggling for each word. "And always be kind to people." Lara shook her head. "You will see me graduate? I promise." Her mother smiled faintly. "Help people when it's convenient," she whispered, "and when it's not." Her eyes slowly closed. The machine made a long, sharp sound. Lara screamed, "Mummy, please, please open your eyes." Doctors rushed in. Nurses pushed her aside. Hands flew everywhere, but it was over. At 19 years old, Lara learned that promises could be buried in hospital beds, but she also learned something else. Kindness could be a final command. The years that followed were brutal. Lara worked 3 jobs to enter nursing school. By day, she sold snacks by the roadside. By night, she cleaned offices. By dawn, she studied until her eyes burned. She slept on chairs, missed meals, cried quietly in public bathrooms. In school, she was mocked. "You're too poor to last here," they said. "Nursing is not for beggars." But Lara never fought back. When a classmate collapsed during practicals, Lara was the first to help. When another couldn't afford textbooks, Lara shared hers. When someone fainted during night duty, Lara stayed awake to cover their shift. She remembered her mother's words. Help people when it's convenient and when it's not. The day Lara finally became a nurse, no one clapped for her. There was no celebration. She stood alone outside the hospital, holding her appointment letter with shaking hands. "Mummy, I made it," she whispered. And then real life began. From her first day at work, Lara learned quickly. This hospital had no mercy. Patients insulted her. Relatives cursed her. Supervisors used her kindness as weakness. She was always the one called to stay back, always the one sent to the worst ward, always the one working without pay. "Lara will do it," they said. "She's too nice to say no." One night, a patient vomited blood all over her uniform. She cleaned him anyway. Another day, a man slapped her hand away. She still dressed his wound. A woman lost her baby and collapsed on the floor, screaming. Lara sat with her for hours, even after her shift ended. She missed buses, walked home late, returned hungry, but she never changed. One evening, a senior nurse mocked her openly. "You think being kind will save you? This job will destroy you." Lara only smiled weakly and replied, "My mother told me to help people, even when it hurts." At home, her life was silent and empty. A single room, a mattress on the floor, a fridge that never had food, bills piled up like threats. Sometimes she slept without eating. Sometimes she cried herself to sleep. Sometimes she didn't cry at all. Still, she showed up every morning. Still, she smiled at patients. Still, she chose kindness. One night, after a long shift, Lara stood by the hospital window, staring into the dark sky. Rain clouds gathered. She pressed her palm against the glass and whispered, "Mummy, I'm tired, but I won't stop." The rain started softly, not heavy, not angry, just enough to soak the streets and blur the streetlights. Lara stepped out of the hospital gates, exhausted. Her legs ached. Her head throbbed. Her uniform was damp with sweat and rain. She pulled her thin sweater tighter around herself and started walking. Every step felt heavier than the last. She just wanted to get home. The rain suddenly grew louder. Cars sped past, splashing dirty water onto pedestrians. People rushed under shop canopies. Umbrellas clashed. Voices complained. That was when Lara noticed him, under a flickering streetlight, sitting on the cold pavement, alone. At first she thought he was just another drunk. His clothes were dirty, his hair was soaked and messy, his head hung low. But as she drew closer, something felt wrong. Very wrong. People passed him like he didn't exist. Some laughed. "See this drunkard!" A man scoffed. Everywhere smells like alcohol and bad luck. A woman pulled her child away. Don't look at him, she whispered. He's trouble. Another man kicked water in his direction and hissed, Useless fellow. Lara slowed her steps. Her heart began to pound. She noticed his hands shaking violently. Not the shaking of alcohol, the shaking of pain. Then she saw it. Fresh bruises, dark marks on his neck, swollen knuckles, a cut above his eyebrows still bleeding slightly. But this was not the body of a drunk. This was the body of someone who had been beaten. Badly. Lara stopped walking. Her conscience screamed. Her body begged her to keep moving. You're tired. You're cold. It's dangerous. You're alone. She took one step forward, then stopped. She remembered her mother's voice. Help people when it's convenient and when it's not. Her heart sank. She turned back slowly, carefully. Sir, she said softly. No response. She moved closer. Rain soaked her shoes. Sir, can you hear me? The man tried to lift his head and collapsed sideways, hard. Lara gasped. Oh, God! She rushed to him, kneeling in the rain. Her hands trembled as she checked his pulse. It was weak. Panic hit her chest like fire. Sir, please stay with me! People stared. No one helped. Someone muttered, Leave him. He chose his life. Lara looked around desperately. Should she call the police? What if they thought she harmed him? An ambulance? What if it never came? Works. She swallowed hard. She had no time. She had a nursing kit in her bag, and she had a choice. She chose him. Lara gently lifted his head onto her lap, shielding his face from the rain with her body. She wiped the blood from his eyebrow. The moment she touched a wound on his shoulder, he flinched violently. Don't, he whispered hoarsely. Her heart skipped. I'm not hurting you, she said gently. I'm a nurse. At the word nurse, his body relaxed slightly, but his eyes stayed full of fear. Please don't take me back, he murmured. Back where? Lara asked softly. His lips trembled. They betrayed me, he whispered. Everyone. His breathing became uneven. They took everything, the company, the trust, then they sent men. He choked. Someone wanted me dead. Lara froze. This was no ordinary man. She wrapped her sweater around him, her only protection from the cold, he noticed. You'll be cold, he whispered. She forced a smile. I'll manage. She cleaned his wounds gently. Each time her fingers touched certain bruises, he flinched like a frightened child. His hands clenched and unclenched. They said I was nothing without them, he murmured. They drugged me, left me here. Tears slipped down his face, mixing with rain. Quiet tears, ashamed tears. Lara's chest tightened. She helped him sit up and guided him to a nearby kiosk. She bought hot food with the little money she had. When she placed the food in his hands, he stared at it like it wasn't real. Eat slowly, she said. The first spoon shook so badly it spilled. He covered his face and cried, not loudly, silently, broken. Thank you, he whispered between sobs, for seeing me. Those words pierced Lara's heart. She pressed some money into his palm. He tried to refuse. She insisted. Please, she said. You'll need it. She stood up, soaked and shivering. Will you be okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. Yes, because tonight, someone remembered I'm human. Lara walked away, rain soaking her completely. She didn't look back. She didn't know his name. She didn't know his story. She only knew she had kept her promise. Lara got home long after midnight. The rain had followed her all the way. Her clothes were soaked. Her shoes squelched with every step. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it, breathing hard. Her body was inside the room, but her mind was still under that flickering streetlight. She peeled off her wet clothes slowly, her hands shaking from cold. Her sweater was gone. The room felt emptier than usual. She wrapped herself in a thin blanket and sat on the edge of the bed. Her phone lay beside her. She stared at it. I should have asked for his name. I should have asked for his address. Her chest tightened. What if he collapses again, she whispered. What if nobody helps him this time? She lay down, but sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his bruised face, his shaking hands, his quiet tears. Thunder cracked outside. Lara shivered, not just from cold, but from worry. Before dawn, she whispered to herself, "I'll check on him tomorrow morning." That promise was the only thing that finally let her sleep. Morning came too fast. Lara woke up with a pounding headache. Her throat burned, her body felt heavy. But she forced herself up. She tied her hair, wore another thin sweater, and rushed out. She skipped breakfast. She skipped rest. She went straight to the street. The street was alive now. Sunlight replaced rain. Cars moved freely. People laughed and argued. The streetlight still stood there, flickering, but the man was gone. Lara stopped walking. Her heart dropped. She scanned the area. Nothing. No sign of him. No bloodstain. No sweater. No trace. Her breathing quickened. "Sir?" she called softly. People stared at her strangely. She approached a kiosk owner nearby. "Excuse me," she asked. "There was a man here last night. Hurt. Did you see him?" The woman shrugged. "I saw police early morning. Maybe they took him, or maybe he left." That answer gave her no peace. She walked around the area, checking corners, gutters, benches. Nothing. Her eyes burned. Did he survive? Did he get help? Was he attacked again? Then she touched her chest. Her sweater was gone, and suddenly a small smile broke through her worry. "At least he was warm," she murmured. She sighed deeply. "I did the right thing," she said quietly. "That's what matters." She turned and headed to work. By afternoon, Lara's body began to fail her. Her head spun. Her joints ached. Her vision blurred. She ignored it. Patients still needed her. She forced smiles, changed drips, cleaned wounds. But by evening she was burning with fever. Her hands shook so badly she dropped a tray. A senior nurse looked at her sharply. "Lara, you look terrible." "I'm fine," she whispered. She wasn't. That night, Lara collapsed on her bed the moment she got home. Her body shook violently. Cold and heat fought inside her. She coughed until her chest hurt. She tried to stand and fell back down. Her phone buzzed. A message from work. Reminder. Morning shift starts 7 a.m. She stared at the screen. Tears slipped from the corners of her eyes. "I can't," she whispered. Morning came. Lara didn't wake up at 6. She didn't wake up at 7. She woke up past noon, drenched in sweat, throat raw, head pounding. Panic seized her. Oh no, she grabbed her phone. Missed calls, messages. Her heart sank. The next day at work, Lara stood trembling in front of her supervisor. "You missed a critical shift," the woman said coldly. "I was sick." "That's not an excuse," she snapped. "This hospital doesn't run on sympathy." Lara lowered her head. "One more mistake," the supervisor continued, eyes hard, "and you're out." Out. The word echoed in Lara's ears. She nodded silently, because explaining kindness always sounded like weakness. That night, Lara sat alone in her room. Medicine bottles beside her, bills on the table, her body still weak, her heart heavier. She hugged herself tightly and whispered, "Mummy, was I wrong?" Silence answered. But deep inside she knew, if that same night came again, she would still stop, even if kindness cost her everything. The hospital corridor felt different that morning. Too quiet, no shouting, no rushing footsteps, no usual chaos, just whispers, fear-filled whispers. Lara noticed it the moment she walked in. Nurses stood in small groups, clutching files to their chests. Some had red eyes, some looked like they hadn't slept. A notice had been pasted on the board. Hospital management announcement. Her heart skipped. The bad news arrives. All staff were ordered into the hall. Doctors, nurses, cleaners, interns. Management stood at the front with stiff faces. One man cleared his throat. "Due to financial challenges," he began slowly, "this hospital will be downsizing." A murmur spread through the room. "We can no longer retain all staff," he continued. "Names will be called." Lara's fingers tightened around her ID card. Downsizing. The word sounded harmless, but it wasn't. The first name was called. A nurse screamed and broke down immediately. The second name, a man collapsed into a chair. The third, a woman began to beg, "Please, I have 3 children." Security escorted her out. Lara's breathing became shallow. Her ears rang, name after name, each one cutting deeper. She looked around. People were crying openly now. Some prayed, some cursed, some froze. Then her heart stopped. For one long second, she didn't move. People turned to look at her. Her supervisor avoided her eyes. That was it. No explanation. No apology, no thank you. Just, you can drop your ID at the desk. Lara walked out like someone moving through water. Slow, heavy, numb. She removed her uniform in the changing room, folded it neatly. Her hands shook. 5 years. Gone. She got out of the hospital gate and stood there staring at the road. Cars passed. Life continued, but hers had just paused. The next weeks were brutal. Lara moved from hospital to hospital, clinic to clinic, CV in hand, hope shrinking. You're overqualified. We're not hiring. We'll call you. They never did. She attended interviews. Some were humiliating. One man looked at her CV and laughed. You've been unemployed too long. Another asked, why should we trust someone? Hospitals keep letting go. She left with tears burning her eyes. At one clinic, she waited 6 hours, only to be told the position was already filled. She failed interview after interview. Her confidence shattered. Months later, money ran out. Rent piled up. Then the knock came. Her landlord stood at the door, cold, impatient. You have 1 week, he said flatly. If you don't pay, you leave. She tried to explain, tried to beg. He shrugged. Everyone has problems. The door closed. Lara sat on the floor that night, surrounded by her belongings, her phone, her clothes, her small table, her chair. One by one, she sold them. Cheap, painfully cheap. Each sale felt like losing a piece of herself. Her android went first, then clothes, then furniture. Her room became empty, silent. Some nights she slept hungry. Some days she walked for hours just to avoid thinking. She stopped answering people, stopped hoping, stopped dreaming. She lay on the bare floor one night, staring at the ceiling and her small phone. Mummy, she whispered, voice breaking, I'm tired. Tears rolled freely now, no strength to stop them. She remembered the rain, the stranger, the sweater. She laughed bitterly. So this is the reward for kindness? She murmured, her stomach growled, her eyes burned. But still, she didn't regret it, even broken, even homeless soon. She whispered, I would still do it again. Mother said I should be kind to people always, whether it's convenient or not. I hit rock bottom. Not the kind people talk about. The real kind. The kind that smells of dust, hunger and shame. She had no job, no money, no strength, no house. Now she slept under a bridge. At night, cold air cut through her thin clothes. Rats ran past her feet. Cars roared overhead like the world reminding her she no longer belonged in it. She curled herself on flattened cartons, hugging her knees. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she didn't. Because tears, too, get tired. At dawn, Lara woke up before the sun. Her body ached. Her stomach burned. She washed her face at a public tap and tied her hair neatly. Even under a bridge, she refused to look careless. Every morning she went to the market, not to buy, to hire a wheelbarrow. She pushed loads for traders, bags of rice, baskets of tomatoes, heavy cartons. Her hands blistered, her back screamed. For every trip, she earned just enough to eat once. And yet, she still helped. One day, an old woman collapsed beside her stall. People stepped back. Don't touch her, someone shouted. She might die on you. Lara dropped her barrow. She knelt, checked breathing, lifted the woman's legs, used water to cool her down. She stayed until the woman regained consciousness. When thanked, Lara only smiled. It's okay, she said softly. I'm a nurse. Even if the world no longer believed it. Another day, an orange seller cried because his oranges spilled on the ground. Lara helped gather them. A trader tried to cheat a young girl. Lara spoke up. Please, don't do that. Kindness still flowed from her like it didn't know she was broken. That morning, the sun was barely up. Lara adjusted the small nylon bag on her shoulder. Inside it was everything she owned. One extra dress, a toothbrush, a small phone, old, cracked, barely working. She was walking toward the market to hire a wheelbarrow when the phone rang. She froze. Who would be calling her? The screen read, "Unknown number." Her chest tightened. Stress flooded her face. She picked it reluctantly. "Hello?" A strange, calm voice answered. "Good morning. Is this Miss Lara Benson? You need to come to our office right away." She sighed sharply. "I didn't apply for work in your office." "Ooh," she said tiredly. "You people should stop disturbing me." She hung up. The phone rang again. She groaned. "Hello, I said wrong number." This time the voice sounded urgent. "Please don't hang up." She ended the call. Her hands were shaking. Her heart beat fast. Who kept calling her? The phone rang a third time. She almost ignored it, but something inside her pushed her to answer. "Yes," she said sharply. The voice paused, then said slowly, "Miss Lara Benson, registered nurse, license number 487, her breath caught, trained at St. Mary's College of Nursing." The world stopped. Her knees weakened. Who is this?" she whispered. The voice replied, "Please come to this address. I have sent it to you as text message. Someone important wants to see you." Lara laughed bitterly. "Important? Do you know me?" Silence. Then the caller continued, "Please come. We've been looking for you." The call ended. Lara stood there shaking. Her mind raced. Scam? Joke? Cruel prank? She looked at the address. Her heart sank. The place was far. Transport money? She didn't have. She turned to leave, but her feet refused to move. Something felt different. She walked to a nearby trader she sometimes helped. "Mama, please," Lara said quietly. "Can you borrow me transport money? I'll return it." The woman looked her up and down. "You again," she sighed. Lara lowered her head. "I'll pay back." After a long pause, the woman reached into her wrapper and handed her some money. "Go," she said, "and don't disgrace me." Lara nodded gratefully. "Thank you." As Lara boarded the bus, her heart pounded so hard she could hear it. Her clothes were worn. Her shoes were tired. Her hands were rough. She didn't look like someone going to meet anyone important. She whispered to herself, "Whatever this is, let it worth it." The bus drove forward, and Lara also fixed her eyes on the road. A moment later, Lara stood across the road and stared. Her heart skipped, then skipped again. The building in front of her didn't look real. Glass walls stretched into the sky, tall gates opened and closed silently, cars more expensive than houses glided in and out. This was not a place for people like her. She checked the address again. Her hands shook. This must be a mistake. Before she could turn back, a uniformed security man approached her. "Miss Lara Benson?" he asked. She swallowed. "Yes. Please follow me." Her legs felt weak as she stepped into the compound. The moment she entered the building, her breath caught. The floor shone like a mirror. The air smelled clean, rich. Everything looked expensive, quiet, powerful. They walked and walked and walked. Every step echoed. Lara's worn shoes squeaked softly against the polished floor. People stared. Some paused mid-conversation. Some whispered behind their hands. "Is that her? That's the one? Why would the CEO send for someone like this?" Lara lowered her head. Her heart pounded harder with every whisper. The security man stopped at the elevator. He pressed the button. The doors slid open silently. Inside, the elevator moved slowly upward. The numbers climbed. 10, 18, 27. Lara's palms were sweaty. Her mind screamed, "What am I doing here?" The elevator stopped at the top floor. The doors opened. Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. They walked down a long hallway. Only one door stood at the end. Large, dark, important. The security man stopped. "Go in," he said gently. Lara hesitated. Her heart beat so loudly she feared they could hear it. She knocked. "Come in," a deep voice replied. The door opened. The office was massive. Glass walls, city view, furniture that looked like it belonged in a palace. And behind the desk, a man stood up slowly, tall, clean, confident. Lara took one step forward, then froze. Her breath vanished. Her heart dropped into her stomach. It was him. The stranger, the man from the rain. No dirt, no bruises, no trembling. His hair was neatly styled, his suit perfectly fitted, his eyes sharp yet soft. Flashbacks crashed into Lara's mind, the flickering streetlight, his shaking hands, blood on his face, his whisper, Thank you for seeing me." Her knees weakened. She grabbed the chair beside her. He walked toward her slowly, the same eyes. "I knew it was you the moment I saw your name," he said quietly. Lara's voice shook. You were dying," he finished gently. "Yes." He gestured for her to sit. She sat, still in shock. He took a deep breath and began. "I was betrayed," he said, "by people I trusted, friends, business partners." His jaw tightened. "They drugged me during a meeting, took my documents, took my access, took my company." Lara listened, frozen. "They left me on the road, thought I would die." His voice softened. "I wandered for weeks, 3 weeks." Lara's eyes widened. "I didn't know who I was. I didn't remember my name. I didn't remember my home." His fingers clenched slightly. "I only remembered pain." He looked directly at her. "And then the rain." Lara's chest tightened. "That night," he continued, "your hands touched my wounds." He paused. "And something happened." My head cleared. Slowly, he smiled faintly. "You treated me properly, cleaned the bruises, stopped the bleeding." His voice trembled. "That care brought my memory back." Lara's eyes filled with tears. "The money you gave me," he said, "helped me get transport. I found my way home." His eyes darkened. "I handled everyone who betrayed me." His voice was firm now. "I took back my company." Silence filled the room. He stepped closer. "I searched everywhere for you," he said softly. "Hospitals, streets, records. I found your name. And today I finally found you." Lara covered her mouth, let me serve. Tears rolled freely now. "I owe you everything," he said. "My life, my memory, my future." He bowed his head slightly. "Thank you." Lara shook her head, crying. "I only helped because I was taught to," she whispered. "I didn't know who you were." He smiled gently. "That's why you matter." "Thank you, Nurse Lara, for bringing me back to myself." And silence filled the office. Lara wiped her tears, still trying to steady her breathing. The man she once fed under a streetlight now stood before her, whole, powerful, untouchable. He cleared his throat gently. "My name is Gerald Lawson," he said. "I'm the CEO of this company." The name sounded heavy, important. Lara lowered her eyes. "I didn't know," she whispered. Gerald smiled softly. "That's why you're special." He glanced at her worn dress, the tired shoes, the hands that had seen too much struggle. "The first thing we'll do," he said carefully, "what is change your outfit?" Lara stiffened. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "I don't need—" "Please," he interrupted, not unkindly, "come with me." Minutes later, Lara found herself in a car so quiet it felt unreal. The city passed by like a movie. She pressed her fingers together, afraid to touch anything. When the gates opened, she gasped. The mansion stood tall and calm, surrounded by green lawns and silence that smelled like peace. Inside, everything was warm and clean. Gerald led her upstairs. "This room is yours," he said, opening a door. Lara froze. The room was beautiful. A soft bed, clean sheets, a bathroom bigger than her old apartment. She stepped inside slowly, afraid it might disappear. You can rest," Gerald said. "We'll talk later." When he left, Lara sat on the bed and cried. Not loud, just deep, quiet tears. Later that day, Gerald sat across from her in the living room. "I want you to work in my company," he said. "A good job, a car, a driver." Lara shook her head immediately. "No?" He blinked. "No?" he repeated. "I can't," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't deserve this." She stood up. "You pity me because I live under a bridge. That's all." Gerald rose too. "This is not pity," he said firmly. "This is gratitude, not charity." She shook her head. "I don't want to be someone's project." He paused, then spoke slowly. "You saved my life when you had very little." His eyes held hers. "Let me save yours now." Lara's strength broke. She nodded. The next morning, Lara arrived at the company in clean clothes. A driver opened the door. People stared. Whispers returned. "Is that her? Who is she to the CEO? Where did she come from?" Lara worked hard. She didn't complain, demand special treatment. She treated Gerald like a normal human being. She corrected him politely, disagreed respectfully, laughed at his jokes. That surprised him. Others feared him. Lara didn't. One day, a senior staff member mocked her openly. "You think you belong here?" Before Lara could speak, Gerald stepped in. "She belongs wherever I place her," he said calmly. The room went silent. From that day, no one dared cross her again. Months later, love crept in. Love didn't rush in. It walked. Slowly. Gerald noticed small things. How Lara stayed late to help colleagues, how she shared lunch with cleaners, how she thanked drivers by name. She noticed him too. How tired he looked at night, how lonely power had made him, how he smiled only when he was around her. Meanwhile, love didn't arrive loudly in Lara's life. It grew quietly, like morning light creeping into a dark room. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Lara and Gerald worked side by side, but something deeper was happening between them. They shared early mornings, coffee before meetings, late evenings, files spread across the table, soft music playing, silent moments where no words were needed. Gerald began to notice things he had never noticed before in any woman. How Lara always stood up when elders entered a room, how she greeted security guards by name, how she never wasted food, no matter how small the portion. And Lara noticed Gerald too, how he listened, how he never raised his voice, how the loneliness in his eyes softened whenever she laughed. They never rushed anything, no pressure, no labels, no promises spoken too early. But love was already there, settling in quietly. One evening, after work, Gerald stood beside her desk. "Lara," he said gently, "can you spare your evening for me?" She looked up surprised. "For work?" He smiled. "For life." Her heart skipped. She nodded. That night, rain began to fall, not heavy, not gentle, the kind of rain that carries memories. They drove slowly through the city, the sound of rain tapping against the car roof like a familiar song. Lara stared out the window. Something felt strange, something felt important. The car slowed, then stopped. Her breath caught. They were there. The same street, the same streetlight, the same place where everything began. And just like that night, it was raining. Gerald stepped out first. He walked around the car and opened Lara's door. Rain touched her hair immediately. Before she could react, he lifted an umbrella and shielded her completely. She froze. Her eyes widened. That was when it hit her. That night, she had stood in this same rain, cold, exhausted, with nothing, and she had shielded him. Now, he was shielding her. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. At the moment, they stood under the streetlight, rain falling, city quiet. Gerald took a deep breath. "Lara, he said, his voice trembling for the first time she'd ever heard. "This place changed my life." Flashbacks hit like lightning. Her offering him food with shaking hands, her tearing off her sweater to cover his wounds, her whispering, "You'll be okay, I'm here." "I was broken," he continued, "betrayed, drugged, left to die." He stepped closer. "You had every reason to walk away," his voice cracked, "but you didn't. You loved me when I was nothing, when I had no name, no power, no future." Rain soaked his shoulders, but he didn't move. "You didn't know who I was, and that is why your kindness saved me." He dropped to one knee. People passing by gasped. Cars slowed, but Gerald saw only her. "I don't want a woman who loves my wealth. I want the woman who fed a stranger in the rain." He opened the ring box. Lara, will you marry me?" Lara covered her mouth. Her knees shook. Memories flooded her mind, sleeping under a bridge, pushing a wheelbarrow, crying into empty nights. And standing here now, loved, seen, chosen, she whispered. Rain hid her tears. "Yes, Gerald." Cheers erupted from nowhere. Someone clapped, someone shouted. But Lara only saw him. Gerald stood and pulled her into his arms. The rain washed over them. But this time it didn't hurt. And they lived together happily after. Hello, besties. If this story touched your heart, then please listen closely. Kindness never dies. What you do in secret, in pain, in weakness, life remembers it. Help people even when it's inconvenient. Lara helped a stranger when she was tired, broke, and scared. That single act changed her destiny. Hard times are not the end of your story. Lara slept under a bridge, yet her life still had a beautiful chapter waiting. Besties, if this story moved you, like this video to support stories with meaning. Comment your favorite lesson. Let's learn together. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next episode. Share this story with someone who needs hope today. Remember this, your kindness may be the miracle someone is praying for. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, stay blessed. Bye.